Hello, everyone, and welcome to Vidane TV's coverage of the SIM500 Esports Racing League and the Vidane Marketing Solutions 88. This week, it's the big time, the biggest track on the circuit. It's our venue for the evening. And of course, that means the 2.66-mile Talladega Speedway. Kevin England back again with Tim Terry to my side and producer Paul Showtime Strickland peeking over our shoulders with camera in hand. How do you feel about a little pack racing tonight, Tim?
I'm excited about it, especially the way we left Daytona International Speedway. Obviously, it's been a couple of months since we've been to a super speedway and seen these drivers do the dance, and obviously a lot of these drivers familiar with the Vidane Super Speedway series that we had in the winter. So excited to see these guys back at a super speedway. Always provides some great racing. We got some new drivers out here. Omar, going to start from the pole here tonight, and in behind him, it looks like Danny Hansen qualified in P3. So some new drivers, not necessarily to iRacing, but new to the SIM500 Transervice Cup Series. And then Tyler Dalton, we documented back at Daytona, Kevin. He always qualifies well, especially at these super speedways. Just really hasn't had the finish in the last couple of races to really kind of get that speed down. We'll see what he can do here, though. Starts on the outside of the front row.
Yeah, Dalton, one of the rookies in the season, if you could call him a rookie, is having a reasonable season coming on and just starting to get into those summer months where I think he's going to shine. And as we look through this field, 43 drivers making the call. You see the lineup up on the screen. One driver, unfortunately, missed it in qualifying. Eric Arnold had an incident over there on the backstretch, and he got sent behind the wall. So unfortunate for Eric. He'll be back next week, but full field of 43 drivers getting ready to come to the green.
We saw these drivers do a lot of pack practice in the practice session, Kevin. So I think these drivers are prepared and ready to go as the iRacing pace car going to pull it down into the infield. And Omar going to lead these drivers to green for his first SIM500 Transervice Cup Series start.
Yeah, no pressure in the air to start on the pole here in super speedway racing, but as they roll through the tri-oval here, as Paul likes to say, waiting to get to that start-finish line way down here by turn number one. And the green is out. Omar going to come up through the gears and kick it off with the Ally Camaro. To his outside, Tyler Dalton is getting a good run. They'll be side by side, of course, going into turn one.
They climb the bank down into corner number one. And we saw last week we had a first-time driver in this series, not a stranger to sim racing, and Kevin King start from the pole. Kevin not here this evening, but Omar and Danny on that inside line, tucked up tight together, going to try to bring that thing down the back straightaway and into the lead. But Byron Daly has some familiar company on his outside. I believe that might be Tommy Ryan. We saw Tommy run really, really well here at Daytona Super Speedway package-wise back in February.
Yeah, Tyler Dalton had the 33 on his back bumper coming down the front straightaway. Byron Daly abandoned him, jumped down into the lower line. That means the lower line is going to lead us back, and it will be Omar in the lead with the field in tow as they head through and complete lap number one. So far, so good. There's 2 and 3 wide racing, and that's not unusual here for Talladega.
And you see in the middle of the pack some familiar faces. Daniel Faulkingham was the winner 1 week ago when we went to Richmond with the Transervice Cup Series. There's Scott Stenzel on the back bumper of the 41 of E.J. O'Rourke on the outside. But Adam Gilliland there as well. Remember back, Kevin, to last week where Adam was so dominant in the second half of the race at Richmond, and we thought he was going to walk away with the victory. And then a late yellow flag comes out and kind of changes everything. And I asked Adam, I said, what happened? And it wasn't he got beat by the strategy, he got beat by the caution flag. He said the caution flag didn't come out, he's likely winning that race. And true to that, I think he was too, as he goes to the high side and teams up with Justin Fuller. So he's got a little chip on his shoulder tonight, Kevin. I think he's going to show these guys something because he, as much as he likes the short track package, he loves these super speedways.
Yeah, I've run this racetrack twice this week, and it's a blast. It's a lot of fun trying to slice and dice and cut through. As you can see one car low on the apron there. I think he's just trying to get out of the mix. He's got to get back and blend in, and does that successfully. But, yeah, this is the type of racetrack, as you hear all the time, where different people can rise to the occasion. You won't necessarily see a Daniel Faulkingham or an Adam Gilliland in for the win, although it's completely likely. But as yellow's out on the speedway, this opens the opportunity for so many of these drivers to get their victory here at Talladega.
And I believe John Fowler is one of the drivers that is slow in turn at number 4, one of our newcomers to this series in the 52 car, among those that is involved in this first incident this evening. We'll get the Kong Beer Bong instant replay queued up. And Paul, it was not the 52 that started it. It starts around Randy Yoakum and I believe the 5 of Trey Edson that start this thing all off. And we'll kick it down to our production trailer as Paul gets ready to take a look at what happened to bring out our first caution flag of the evening in the Verdane Marketing Solutions 88. Paul, what do you got?
Yeah, this is one of those wrecks. It seems like it involves quite a few drivers, so we're going to take a look, kind of a far angle first, and we're going to focus in on that 5 car of Trey Edson. You see him up on the outside. He's kind of running top of 3 wide a little bit. There you can see some contact up in that high side, kind of a far camera angle, so we're going to back that up again and take a closer look, but it's definitely one of those things that happens a lot at super speedways. You get right up on the back bumper of someone. There you can see the 8 and the 5 make a little bit of contact, and you get a little bit of nudge from behind, and there you see racetrack gets blocked up. The 44 Transervice car getting a little bit of a ding out of that, but everything else looks a-okay. There you see Dave Roth up on the high side, and the 43 looks like he made it through without any damage. Not a huge hit for anybody down here, but it's gonna put them in the back of the pack at the very least. They're going to have to come down pit road and see if they can bang out some of the virtual sheet metal.
One characteristic of plate racing, as we used to call it, everybody's bunched together, and when you find trouble, you tend to find it in big groups there, Tim. No exception there is a couple cars taking big hits. They have no resets, so whatever damage they have, they're going to have to live with it for the rest of the night, and you see a large gaggle of cars coming off pit road after pulling service. And I think what a lot of these drivers out in the back, Tim, will do is just fill up on fuel, as we see Beasley pulling off there.
And tires aren't usually an issue in these races, but they do have 3 sets of tires tonight, which I think would even out with what you're going to do with fuel, because you're going to have probably 2 stops on fuel, depending on the way this race all shakes out. So you'll have an opportunity to take 4 tires if you do decide to pack that thing full of fuel every time you do come down pit road. But with the way this thing plays out, we get some green flag racing in here. It's going to change some strategies just a little bit. But we saw that, I don't want to say sense of urgency in the middle of the pack, but maybe a little bump draft or a little move gone wrong, and puts us under the caution for the first time. But we have a bunch of drivers on that strategy, Kevin, and we usually see it here at super speedways, where they're kind of riding in the back and waiting for something to happen. For a guy like Trey Edson, who has been up front, has won a race this season already, he knows how to get to victory lane. It kind of puts that, I don't want to say that strategy in question, but we got some drivers that were just riding, and now they're on the wrong side of it. Richard Beasley barely got through there, one of those in the 10 car.
Yeah, looking at the 8, the Snap Mobile Shop Camaro still sitting down there getting damage repaired. That's the one good thing about these long pace laps and long caution laps, is you have quite a bit of time to attend to the damage of your cars. But yeah, Tim, one of the things about this is drivers, sometimes they just play different strategies. They want to hang out in the back, see if they can avoid the big one. It's really difficult to pass here sometimes, though. You get stuck in this race back there about 23rd, and you may get a car or 2, but what we typically see is in time, they'll start hugging that yellow line, they'll get single file, and you cannot pass to the outside unless you have about 8 or 9 of your best friends with you. And drivers will learn to ride to protect their cars. That doesn't make it any easier when you're running in the draft and you got a car in front of you. You're pulling up on them and you have to let off, and you got to know that the car behind you has to let off also. So, yeah, it's a really interesting racetrack to run because there's so many different dynamics of driving in the pack.
Lights are out atop the pace car. We're going to get ready to go back to green, and we're kind of affixed on that 32 car. I don't know if Paul can get a shot of the hood of the 32 car. That is the Melon Man brand number 32. That is Ross Chastain's logo on that Ford Mustang. Danny Hansen. Danny is a wily veteran when it comes to sim racing, a former winner in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series at Charlotte. And he's got his own media company, H Media, takes pictures at the big NASCAR races. So great to have Danny along for the ride with us here this evening. And he's got a TCM logo on the back of that car as well. So great addition to the SIM500 Transervice Cup Series. He is going to be one to watch here as we go through the season. And he and Omar have raced plenty of laps together, so I have a feeling that this might be a tough combination to beat if they can continue to run up front. But you look at the familiar drivers that we're used to seeing on Monday nights, at least from the start of the season. Byron Daly on the outside, Justin Fuller, Adam Gilliland. You get Daniel Faulkingham on the inside. And good run early in this one for Mike Montesi in the 45. He's had a couple of rough weeks, and Kevin, it hasn't been his fault. He's been swept up in some just some weird wrong place, wrong time incidents, but he's up in the top 10 early here in the 45. We'll see what he can do on this second run as we get ready to see the pace car pull off the racetrack and we get ready to go back to green.
Hansen on the back bumper of Diallo as they head off to that start-finish line. And I love the color of that car. For some reason, it just stands out. Maybe it's because it's so plain, it makes it easily identifiable there, that second place number 32. But they're on the gas heading off to turn number 1, and the inside lane gets a great jump again. Hansen right on the back bumper as they hug that yellow line heading in, and it looks like the field a little more stretched out this time.
They're still getting up to speed as they work through 1 and 2, and I agree with you. Danny's car, it almost looks like a primer gray sort of, I don't want to say a test car. I know Danny didn't have a whole lot of time to paint a race car before he hopped in here tonight, but Danny's not a flashy guy, and it shows right now, and he's just kind of laying in wait as Byron Daly has some help from Justin Fuller and maybe a little more help than he wants to. That thing was dancing down the back straightaway. Byron Daly to the top of the board, and now the 51 and Justin Fuller trying to find a way around.
Yeah, they're 3 wide with Gilliland pushed to the outside lane coming here through the tricky tri-oval as they look at, well, man, that 33 is just hooked up. The two of them shot off like they were in a can, and typically when you get that, the other drivers can pull right up, and, well, here comes the 48. He's flying.
They get that run. That's Daniel Faulkingham right in behind. And as they go down the back straightaway, you start to see some of these drivers. There's one driver in the bottom. That might be Montesi trying to get out of dodge a little bit. Actually, it might be Tommy Ryan trying to get out of dodge just a little bit as Montesi on the back bumper of the 51 of Justin Fuller. Still plenty of time to get some moves done, but I like that little, I don't want to say test session, Kevin, but you saw the 33 and the 51 hook up, lock bumpers, and go to the front. Maybe they learned something there.
Just trying to look and see who's going to actually score that lap. It looks like Byron Daly got it by a whisker. I saw the 51 absolutely sideways over there going into turn number 1. Or no, that was, yeah, it was either Stenzel or they both have similar cars, Stenzel and O'Rourke. One of them was sideways on the entry to the corner. Man, you would not know this is lap number 9. These guys are absolutely on it.
Yeah, you would think they'd be racing for the final lap, or at least they have a reset in their back pocket, but they don't. This is some great racing up in front, and we're starting to see, I think, a couple of packs starting to form, and if I'm in that second or third pack, I'm kind of thinking, hey, I don't like what I'm seeing up here because these guys are racing, and one small mistake is going to set off what could very well be the big one as Danny Hansen gets stuck in the middle. Byron Daly is your leader with now E.J. O'Rourke having Adam Gilliland give him a push. Mike Montesi's there as well. That 45 is doing a great job here tonight up in third.
Yeah, love to see that. And Tyler Dalton, who didn't have a great start, is now in that hunt there. And right behind him, it's the number 21 of Cody Smith, the motocross. Ford looking really good there as Faulkingham drops down to that lower line to cover Williams. And here comes Tereska, first time we called his name tonight. So, yeah, no shortage of action there in that front pack.
There's a lot of personal comfort up here in this front pack, and Kyle Tarasco, one of those drivers that we usually talk about near the end of these races, but now he's up here with Josh Williams in the 95. There's a driver that's had a lot of speed all season long, but Josh hasn't been able to close the deal and get that win and kind of lock himself and punch that ticket into the playoffs. But he has been there. I think, Kevin, Josh is one of those drivers that is going to win a race or two before we get to the playoffs. It's just a matter of when he does. Same deal as we were talking about Daniel Faulkingham last week before he won.
Yeah, nice to see Bobby Wetzel in the 9 running in that 9th position. Talk about miserable. His racing season has just been awful, and here he is early going in the top 10, having a good run in that SIM500 Esports Racing League car. He's a little off the tail of the car in front of him, but where did EJ O'Rourke go? EJ looks like he pulled out. I'm wondering if EJ's going back to find somebody.
That the front pack, we got one around. Oh, the leaders are around in front, and that will draw the caution flag. I didn't see what happened there. I was kind of looking near the back of the pack and was about to say some of these drivers have fallen off, thinking that something like this was going to happen, and it looks like it did. The leaders come together, and that will draw the second caution flag of the evening. We'll head it down to Showtime, Paul Strickland Jr. And Paul, it's the 33 of Byron Daly up in front, but he's not up front for long because he might have had a little help.
Yeah, it was looking like there definitely was a little bit of help. Just as we swapped the camera angles live there, we saw the smoke and the fire there, but we're going to pull up the Kong Beer Bong instant replay and take a peek at that and see what went down there. Pulling up the old technology now. It works. How's that go, Tim? Well, it works well when it works.
It works well when it wants to.
Yeah, it works well when it wants to. So we're pulling up 33 right now of Byron Daly, and we can see he and Justin Fuller in the 51 have been working very, very well together over the past couple of laps. We saw that monster push the 51 gave to the 33, and it looks like they were trying to do a little bit more of the same, but unfortunately just didn't hit him square just enough. There you can see didn't hit him square, kind of hit him in the bottom of the race car there and spun him right around, and here he does get it collected up. Nobody else hits him, but sends him around, and great heads-up driving there by Mike Montesi. He's actually going to hold on to the second position after all that, and it looks like everybody else gets by scot-free, so that's good news there. Just sucks for the 33 car. Going to have to restart in the back of the pack here.
Hey, Paul, there was one more wreck at the exact same time, and I kind of saw it off one of your long shots. It's the 48 of Omar got a little bit of a bump draft gone wrong coming out of the trioval just around the start-finish line. Right there on your screen, you see that car that's spinning. That's Omar. He got a hit from Danny Hansen, so I don't know if it was a mix of both. I don't think this was the caution, Paul, because he spun to the inside and spun to the apron, but kind of two incidents here.
Yeah, and you can see these guys kind of towards the back of the pack. There's incident 1. The 88 goes around, and then you'll see just a little bit later on. Well, it's on the other camera angle now, but at the same time, so it's kind of tough. You can see he was down off the racing groove underneath that yellow line, and then he called for the tow. So not entirely sure what the caution was for there.
At the end of all that, Fuller ended up out front, led one lap, but now he's on pit road. The whole back of that car damaged, so it looks like the contact from the 33 and the 51, they were running first and second. Now they're both going to be also rans at this juncture of the race as Fuller, the crew's got the hammers out and they're beating and banging on the personal comfort Ford.
Yeah, the only car to not come onto pit road besides Randy Yoakum, who was, I believe, either the free pass, the wave around car on this caution, was Jose Gonzalez. Everybody else down onto pit road to get service. I'm showing a little bit of rear end damage to the 39 of Daniel Faulkingham, but I don't think it's going to be enough to really hinder the progress of the 39. But 14 laps in, I'm kind of thinking that Fuller was the leader, as you mentioned. He's going to come down pit road and try to get that car serviced a little bit, and he's coming off of pit road now. A lot of damage to the back end of that number 51 car. But you'd almost have to think it's monkey see, monkey do. The other cars come in behind him because they can go, another 20 laps and change on fuel, so they didn't necessarily need to come onto pit road. But what it does, Kevin, I believe, is it puts us into that window. If we do go green the rest of the way, it puts us in a window of one stop.
Yeah, well, I know you could run somewhere around 60, 62 laps. So I agree with you there. I suspect we are not going to see the last of the yellow cloth tonight.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to see a couple of more yellow flags, especially with the way these drivers are racing. The sense of urgency that we're seeing up in front is one that's not necessarily, we haven't seen it a whole lot. We never saw it at Daytona, but now we're seeing it here at Talladega. So we'll see how this all shakes out.
I think part of that sensibility has to do with track position. A lot of these drivers realize how hard it is to pass if you get locked in that single file down on the lower line. And from that perspective, if you can get it on the restart, you should take it. And it seems like maybe some of these drivers are trying to take advantage of that. As I see a couple drivers taking that last minute opportunity to pit. The 22 is in, the 30 is in. You see who was the other car there? A light gray car heading in.
Daniel Faulkingham is on pit road. He would have been your second place driver. And honestly, I don't mind the strategy if I'm Daniel Faulkingham, Kevin, because what we saw on that run with those drivers kind of dancing around the way they were, and the leader kind of got turned to get on that caution flag. I don't mind the strategy by Daniel Faulkingham to kind of hang out around the back and let this thing play out a little while.
Yeah, and the interesting perspective is, well, completely new set of players now, right? Everybody shuffled the deck. Some of the top cars that were charging in that front group are now towards the back, and now we get to see what somebody like Kyle Taraska has sitting there in that fourth position, whether he's going to be a dominant force in this race.
And Jose Gonzalez up in front, going to lead this field back to green. Still has a few laps before he's going to have to bring that Goya number 26 down onto pit road. So for the first time this evening, we'll kind of see what Jose has. Qualified in 6th, but really hasn't made a whole lot of noise this evening. But he'll lead them to green with Josh Williams, Tyler Dalton, Kyle Taraska, and Scott Stenzel. Your top 5 with Cody Smith, Adam Gilliland, Bobby Wetzel, E.J. O'Rourke, and Danny Hansen in your top 10. So still plenty of time to move around and plenty of time for things to kind of shake out and play out. Talladega Super Speedway, 88 laps is a long way around here. We'll get ready to come back to green this time.
Looking at Pedro Mojica, he had led the point championship up until last week. Now Daniel Faulkingham wrestles it away by 3 points. He's currently sitting in that 13th position, having a quiet night in the early going here. Right in front of him is the field watching the pace car, which tucks behind the grass and is heading to its spot down there by the end of the tri-oval. And here they come up through the gears. It's up to the driver, this track, to kick it off. And everybody's kind of looking ahead, trying to see when they actually see that tweak of the car when it hammers down to go green.
And with everybody kind of accordioning back together when we go green flag racing here at Talladega, you don't want to get that major advantage to get out front, because everybody is going to end up catching you. You're going to end up going one way or the other 9 times out of 10, and we start to see that outside line begin to form. That might be Stenzel on the outside, trying to get that run with the 81 of Adam Gilliland. They're trying to make something happen up there, and it might take them another half lap or so to really get up to speed, but looks like they got some help up there. Danny Hansen's hopped up to the outside.
Turn 4, I saw Gilliland come down on the side of the number 9 side draft, pull that car back, then got a good run up off, and he's to the back bumper of Stenzel. It's going to pay dividends as they climb here. 2nd, 3rd, 4th. I mean, they just rolled past all those cars sitting behind your leader, and now they're going to match going in out of turn number 2 to the back straightaway, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're able to drive ahead, and they are. Gilliland going to push Stenzel to the lead.
And we really weren't able to see the third car of Danny Hansen kind of be able to use that momentum of the 2 cars. And now he's got E.J. O'Rourke to the back bumper. He's got Smith in behind them. But we're seeing the two-car work really, really well, and we're seeing it once again here. We saw it with Byron Daly and Justin Fuller on the first run, or that last run of Green Flag Racing, and now we're seeing it here with Stenzel and the 81 of Adam Gilliland. Personal comfort will lead us across the line this time.
That was, well, I guess the right word is impressive. They not only drove past, they drove off. Unbelievable how well Adam Gilliland was hooked. And Stenzel's car seemed very nervous out there buffering in the wind. Left, right. But Gilliland able to successfully push and maintain that lead as the two of them look very formidable hooked together there. I would be nervous pushing there in the corner, though.
I'll be honest with you, this is the first time I've kind of seen this package since we ran Daytona. So I'm not sure what the builds have done to the Super Speedway package, but I know you said you've raced a little bit of this racetrack, Kevin, but it looks like at least with this Cup car, for the first couple laps, you can find somebody to hook up with and kind of tango with, as we've seen before with two-car tangos. You can get out and you can be dominant, but once a couple of laps get in, you start to see some more cars kind of come back together. Those two cars that were out in front with Stenzel and Gilliland now have company with E.J. O'Rourke, Danny Hansen, Josh Williams, Kyle Taraska, and the kind of the rest of this front pack as they dive it down into three.
Yeah, what I know from running this racetrack last night is even if you pull out of the pits and a lead pack goes by you, you pick up, 100, 200 RPM just from the draft alone. So if you can get behind somebody and get a sniff of that draft, the car really comes to life, and you could use the throttle to drive past. And you see these drivers nose to tail, they're really getting a lot of big runs with this package. That's characteristic of it.
Ooh, Adam Gilliland up the hill goes Stenzel and into Danny Hansen, and we're going to stack them all up in behind. That should draw the yellow, even though the yellow is not out yet. We are still Green Flag Racing. Everybody's wrecked to the apron, and we're still green.
There's the yellow. Yeah, that's unfortunate, but that you could just see that building with the cars wobbling all over the place. And if you're in close contact there, it's inevitable that sooner or later somebody's going to get out of shape, and there's no place to chase the race car.
Paul, what do you got down there? Hey, Paul, the caution flag actually flies. These guys are all wrecking. The 11 of Jimmy Coleman and the 38 of Chad Coleman kind of get together. You see them right there at the top of your screen. They kind of get together, and Jimmy just gets kind of a little bit of a hip check from Chad when they are going by this, slams the brakes on, and he happens to be in the racing groove, which ultimately I believe is what the sim triggered the yellow for.
Wow. That was a pucker. And good for him holding the brake there, because if he'd have slid up into the racing groove, they'd have cleaned the front end off of that car.
It's kind of weird. I think we saw it at Atlanta earlier in the season. There was one track that comes to mind, Kevin, that the caution was triggered a little less easy than some of the other tracks were, and I think this is the way iRacing is going through and updating some of these racetracks, which is great. It keeps us Green Flag Racing, but in a situation like that, for those drivers, if we would have had some Green Flag Racing go on, it might have stunk for some of those drivers, as we see wholesale pit stops down on pit road. A lot of drivers taking this opportunity to top up with fuel, and get down and away, but Scott Stenzel, Adam Gilliland, I believe, stayed out on the racetrack. They are still scored as your lead duo.
Yeah, tough break for Mike Montesi, the kick-ass beef jerky Chevrolet, sitting down there getting some service, trying to get that car straightened out. The front end banged up a little bit, just minding his own P's and Q's there, and racetrack was blocked in front of him. But I agree with you, Tim. It's probably the 11 sitting on that angle on the racing service that drew the caution, and, well, cautions breed cautions. It's going to bring everybody back together.
And we saw Jimmy and the boys do well in the Verdane Super 2A Series back in the winter. So some of these drivers just looking for a break here tonight, and we'll see how this all works itself out. But we've seen 2 wrecks now at the front of the field with the leaders. Now, these 2 here are teammates, Scott Stenzel and the 81 of Adam Gilliland. Probably didn't mean to get into each other, but that was what kind of triggered the yellow flag, as you mentioned, Kevin, the one before. Whether it was Omar's wreck in behind or whether it was Fuller getting in to the car in front of him in the 33. But again, 2 cautions in the last 10 laps have been sort of kind of debatable, triggered by the 2 cars that are in front of the field.
I noticed in my races that you could be tucked in with 4 or 5 cars. As you enter turn 1, you're just trying to paint the yellow line. How hard should that be? But you could watch the cars 1, 2, 3, 4 if you're running 5th, up, down, to the yellow line, into the apron, up, down. They just dance around all the way through the corners. And then you would think when you come off the corner, they tend to wash out a little bit off of turn 2, and then everybody tries to come down and hunt that yellow line. But even still, in the wind, the cars are buffering around. So I'm kind of surprised that these drivers are being as aggressive as they are with the pushes because of the way the cars are dancing around. But I think that's just the way this rules package works. It's a handful to be in and under the car in front of you.
For personal comfort right now, they have the top 5 drivers on this racetrack, and obviously with some caution flag pit stops, that's kind of helped shake that out. But Scott Stenzel, Adam Gilliland, Josh Williams, EJ O'Rourke, and Kyle Tarasca all have personal comfort on their race cars and trying to, after tonight, get a good night's sleep, but want to go out with a victory, and so far so good. They've got some friends to help them out along the way up front. Doug Roth, John Fowler in 7th, Joey Bailey, Bobby Wetzel, and Cody Smith scored as your top 10. And looking back, Danny Hansen has called it an evening. He has retired. Thomas O'Leary is done as well. Randy Yoakum still on the racetrack, 8 laps down. Everybody else still on the speedway, so we've only lost 2 of the 43 starters. Everybody else out here still putting laps down, even though Randy Yoakum is scored as 8 laps behind the leader.
I don't know if the personal comfort strategy is a kamikaze strategy or whether it's going to play out. We'll see whether or not all those drivers can make it to the end of the race as aggressive as it's been up front. But, you know, I look back through the pack at somebody like Joey Jatina. He loves this kind of racing. Richard Beasley, of course, with the belt to prove that he's got the prowess. And, you know, Kevin Brown just kind of lurking back there. And I start looking through the field. Who's the driver that's leaving a little space in front of him? Who's the driver that's watching 10 cars ahead and can find the gap to get through the accident and make it to the finish? Pace car is going to turn left. This is the fun of watching these type of races, is just to see the strategies that these drivers are employing to try and get the victory here at Talladega.
And the last wreck that we saw was kind of the biggest wreck that we've seen so far this evening. But that attrition, you'd have to think, Kevin, is going to start to take its toll if we keep seeing these short spurts of green flag racing followed by cautions with multi-car incidents. But now we'll see who's able to get up front. We've seen the 2 cars kind of get up front and get away, and then everybody kind of come back together. There's Doug Roth to the outside, kind of trying to get a little bit of help from somebody, but the personal comfort cars are going to line up to the inside, 5 strong down the back straightaway, and Roth is going to tuck back into line. EJ O'Rourke goes to the outside.
And now he tucks back in. You know, we have not said names of like a Josh Parker and Brian Macklin, they're just kind of hunting back there outside that top 15 riding right now. And you have to think that Roth in the 43 getting back in line, that must have been a planned move, because it's really difficult when you're out to the outside to squeeze down into one of those holes.
We talked about a couple of those drivers. You mentioned Brian Macklin. He's on your screen right now in the 30 Transervice car. Throughout the SIM500 divisions, he's had some good races. This series for him has been feast or famine. He won at the start of the season at Daytona, so he knows how to get around a super speedway, and he's seen speed throughout, but he's brought home more wrecked race cars, I think, than anybody this year, and that's not, it hasn't been all his fault. He just hasn't been able to catch a break, but now he's in the middle of the pack, kind of waiting for this race to unfold in front of him. He's missed a couple of those big wrecks, so I wouldn't count Brian Macklin out before the end of this one. He's due for a good run.
Yeah, Macklin with 1 win, 3 top 10s on the series, sitting 27th in points. He certainly got to get himself a little higher on the tote board there.
I think it's top 30 you have to be in points in order for that win to count towards the playoffs. So you're almost at that point if you're Brian Macklin, that if you keep racking up bent virtual sheet metal, that you're going to have to be scrounging for points to try to get yourself locked into the playoffs, even though you already have that 1 win. And with, you know, drivers coming into this series that are new, that have the opportunity to whip off a couple of good runs. Obviously, Kevin King's not here this evening, but he finished on the podium last week. There's one more that may very well have something to say before this thing is all said and done. But Macklin right now doing what he has to do, kind of riding in the middle of the pack. It's not go time yet. Got a clean race car. Guys like Josh Parker hanging out there, Trey Edson. I see Chad Coleman back there. Looks like David Comstock is kind of riding back there as well. There's plenty of time to get this thing done and get this thing to the front.
I was riding in the in-car with the 82 of Derek Pemberton, coming off of turn 2 last time to the back straightaway. It was a big gap, just wide open in that closing rate that we saw earlier with a couple cars tandem. He drove right up to the back bumper of Comstock, and you literally had to see him tap the brakes. The good news is, when you put the brakes on in this package, you don't fall off the pace. You can stay right in the bubble or the draft of the car in front of you. A lot of times with these packages, when you put the brakes on, everybody goes sailing by. So there is a neat responsiveness to this package, and how it drives is they're getting racy up front again.
Scott Stenzel scored as your leader the last time by, and for the most part, I think some of these drivers, and I don't want to say they've kind of calmed down, but we saw one small little mistake, one small little mishap could send another driver around, and the 2 drivers that kind of were the culprits of that last caution, Kevin, are running 1-2 right now. So while the middle of the pack right now looking racy, I think that's Justin Fuller out to the outside line with Trey Edson. Justin Fuller knows how to push a driver. We've seen him push a couple towards the front of the field. Now he's going to try it one more time. But for the most part, I think this is the calmest opening few laps we've had of a run. But maybe they learned something here, Kevin. We'll have to see how this all plays out.
You have to imagine it's that wave of the hand out the back window to the car behind you for Stenzel when he got shoved up last time. He probably said to Adam Gilliland, or called to his spotter and said, tell him to stop beating the bumper cover off my car, because Gilliland looks like he's tucked in close, but not given that push and that bump that we saw earlier. Now they seem content to just kind of ride in tire tracks.
Which might not be too bad considering the first couple of opening laps that we have had, but we're starting to see that outside line begin to form and kind of creep a little bit closer towards the front. They now have Trey Edson to the outside. I see Brian Macklin back there as well. So there's a couple more personal comfort cars that are trying to make their way towards the front of this field, but it's going to take them a little while. Cody Smith goes to the outside, trying to get that outside line train working as we come by to complete lap number 29 and begin lap number 30 of 88. Still plenty of time to get this thing done, but that outside line beginning to gain momentum. Here comes the outside line train.
Well, they are making me nervous. That 21 got tapped twice in that corner and turned sideways both times, able to collect the car. Great driving by Trey Edson to stick with him and try and see if he can get it through, but The 21 had enough. Just dive to the bottom and close that hole.
And that thing might have got a little bit free on him, as well as Trey and Fuller both go to the inside and kind of leave Brian Macklin. And what's left of that train on the outside kind of fizzling. Now here comes the 5 of Trey Edson. Here comes the 51 and the 21 of Smith trying to flirt with going up there to that outside, but nothing doing there. You see Kevin Brown in the 93 came so close to winning that Bahrain Super Speedway Championship earlier this season, and he's up there. Don't count out the 93. Before this thing is all said and done, he's going to be up here fighting for a win. Who's that on? Is that Scott Stenzel on the apron?
Yeah, got a bump, went to the apron, was able to gather it back up, still had a head of steam. No harm, no foul. As I saw the 58 of Pedro Mojica, a couple of those drivers decided they were going to get up in front of that high line. That did not work out. Pedro drove about four or five cars past, and now he's sitting there in what, 8th, 9th or so. So that outside lane, I tell you, it just doesn't work unless you're super tight to each other.
And we almost saw them behind going 3 wide and kind of thinking, hey, what are we going to do here? And they got back to 2-lane racing, but for a moment we almost had this lead pack split up into 2. They're back to 1 solid pack with a couple of drivers kind of hanging on the back of this thing, but the sense of urgency, the nervousness, I think, Kevin, as you mentioned up to the top, is starting to show its head. We've got some really talented drivers up there. It's just a matter of who makes that move and who's able to help get this thing towards the front.
You have to wonder if these drivers are trying to learn whether or not this outside lane can go. They know they haven't reached halfway. There's really nothing to gain to be able to run up there. So 21 jumps up in front of the 5 of Trey Edson. But, you just, I don't know if you get bored, complacent, whatever the right term is, of sitting back there feeling helpless that you can't drive through the car or around the car in front of you. And when you see everybody going to the outside, you're like, yeah, I'll have a part of that action. And even Fuller with the damage on the back of his car, when he's tucked in the draft there, it works perfectly fine for him.
And we're starting to see a little bit of headway from that upstairs line. The 21 of Smith has the 5 of Edson to the back bumper, and now they're up to 5th place. They're to the door of Kyle Tarasca for position number 5. But we're starting to see, I think, Kevin, a little bit of nervousness to the inside line, too. Kind of saw Joey Bailey kind of get a little bit sideways in the middle of the pack. Going to make it 3 wide. Smith going to be in the middle, and this might not end well for the 21. And there goes the 5 to the outside. That's going to be a caution, and that's a big one.
It's going to be the big one. About half the field's going to get caught up in this. As the 51 tagged the 5, turned him right, and then he turned left and went down in front of the entire pack approaching, and this is going to be a massive incident.
We'll take a look at the Kong Beer Bong instant replay, and I don't think that's the first one that Justin Fuller had a little bit of help with this evening, and it sucks, Paul, because that was his teammate that he got into it with again.
Yeah, we've seen just how aggressive Justin Fuller is on the pushing, and usually it seems like no harm, no foul. Everything goes without a hitch, but every once in a while you'll get a bump that's not really 100% squared up, and it just doesn't quite work out. So we're looking through the tapes here to pull up the replay with the 5, the 51. Everybody really involved in there.
Yeah, at the time I was riding with the 51, and he just tried to give a little tap to the 5, didn't square up, turned it sideways, and nothing anybody else behind it could do when the track is blocked as the 5 came back across.
And some great heads-up driving by Kevin Brown. Shot his car down to the low side. It looks like he avoided almost all of the incident here. Maybe a little bit of bent piece of sheet metal, but definitely some heads-up driving. Very good at these super speedway tracks. And you can see there's a lot of damaged race cars. There's the 52, I believe, down there trying to get off the grass. The 5 of Trey Edson, all sorts of tore up. He's pointed in the wrong direction as he's trying to steer that car around on the apron. And a lot of drivers just trying to limp it around here to get to pit road to see if they can maybe do something with any of this damage.
Yeah, big hit for the 5, and then everybody piled in, and unfortunately, that's the breaks of big track racing is Stenzel leads the parade down pit road, everybody going in for service. I would imagine certainly they're going to change tires if they have the opportunity, but I don't know, could be 2-tire, no tire, 4-tire, hard to say at this point. To your point earlier, Tim, tires don't make that much of a difference, but when you have the chance sometimes, especially for handling, you'd like to have 4.
I think the window is about 40-ish laps on fuel, so you're looking at least one more stop, unless we get some yellows and you're able to stretch it to the very end. So these drivers are coming down onto pit road. I'm surprised we didn't see anybody stay out on the racetrack and try to gain a little bit of strategy, but everybody came down pit road, some differing strategies. It's going to be Joey Bailey leading the field off pit road with Adam Gilliland, Kevin Brown, E.J. O'Rourke, and Scott Stenzel, your top 5. And we've got a couple more retirees from this one. Brian Macklin is done. Again, we talked about him trying to get to the top 30 or maintain a top 30 position in points. This isn't going to help him. Brian Macklin done for the evening. Omar is done for the evening through that one. And Justin Fuller, too much damage to the personal comfort, number 51. He is done for the evening at Talladega.
Saw the 8 of Randy Yoakum go around. He's 8 laps down, and I think he was able to get a lucky dog there. So either, well, probably not a lucky dog. He's probably a drive around, wave around.
Well, you know what? Looking at the field that is a lap down right now, a lot of those 1 lap down cars were involved in the incident, so they wouldn't have been a lap down. So I believe Randy probably got the free pass, and we'll have to double check when we come back around. But Trey Edson, 1 lap down, Cody Smith, 1 lap down, and then some of those other drivers that have called it a night now, including John Fowler. John Fowler is done for the evening. And so it looks like there's only 2 drivers that are still remaining on the racetrack or in the racetrack, Kevin, that are 1 lap down. Trey Edson, Cody Smith being those 2, and they're both still sitting on pit road. And as I say that, Cody Smith has decided he is done for the evening.
Yeah, so the big one over there in turn number 1 where all the cars just come together, that's going to build that attrition, and this changes the complete complexity of the race, Tim. 1, drivers are scared to death that it's going to happen again, and 2, now they'll be a little closer to the front. They know they have the opportunity. If they played it safe and they got through that, they could possibly parlay this to run up to a top 10 and get themselves possibly a win here tonight.
But you still got plenty of laps for this thing to play out, which is kind of the thing in the back of my mind that says, hey, we need to ride at least a little bit longer here. You see Joey Bailey up in front. The 1 car had such a good run at the season opener for the Transervice Cup Series at Daytona. He will choose the outside line. Adam Gilliland, Kevin Brown, E.J. O'Rourke, and Scott Stenzel scored as your top 5. Josh Williams, Kyle Tarasca, Pedro Mojica, Daniel Faulkingham, and Stefan Marinick, your top 10. Marinick had to come through a couple of those wrecks. I'm surprised the car isn't as tore up as it maybe should be with trying to dodge some of those wrecks in the middle of the pack, Kevin. But came through the heat race, started at the back of the field, and now he's up to position number 10. So keep your eye on the 24 through all of this.
Yeah, and your 2-point leaders, the 39 and the 58, are in close proximity. Daniel Faulkingham with a little damage to the back of his car, from what I could see from over here, and the 58 sitting right there in front of him. They're just kind of keeping their noses clean, staying out of this, and maybe they'll be here, and that's why they're at the top of the points.
Yeah, it's no fluke that some of those drivers have worked their way to the top, and we see Adam Gilliland up here. He's got a couple of wins so far this season. He's been to the front of the field. And then we see some guys like E.J. O'Rourke who have had consistent speed. Maybe not necessarily, Kevin, the speed to compete to win these races, but, kind of top 10. If the night goes the right way, he's up there knocking on the door of a top 5 run. But with these super speedways, kind of the ultimate equalizer. And E.J. is up here having a shot with this one, as well as that 93 at Kevin Brown. Kevin's had some speed this season, but again, trying to get those brakes to go his way. And that comprises row number 2, and behind Joey Bailey and Adam Gilliland as the 1 will be the control car here as we get ready for green.
Bailey, your sixth different leader so far in this event. Scott Stenzel led 11 laps. He is the top lap leader so far. And I like to see that number 14 Vidane TV Camaro of Joey Jatina running in the 19th position. Clean as a whistle. That car looks really good. And Joey loves these super speedways.
There's a lot of drivers here mid-pack that actually have a clean race car that could very well contend for this win. Keep your eye on those drivers up on that outside line. EJ O'Rourke, or check that Scott Stenzel, and the 93 of Kevin Brown leading it up. But they got Byron Daly. Byron was up at the front earlier, got a little twirl to the back of the pack, and now he's decided that he's ready to go, trying to push that Valvoline number 33 to the outside line and try to bring it back towards the front of the field.
Race officials called a black flag on the number 8. Not sure what the cause is, but they're discussing and looking that over. How about Mike Kelly sitting there in the 13th position? It's been an up and down roller coaster season for him, and he's just kind of pacing himself. He's got a teammate right there in Scott Simley, who we looked at from the qualifying race, almost got in by the skin of his teeth, and those two Verizon cars sitting there comfortably in 12th and 13th.
Yeah, Scott Simley kind of got crossed up in that heat race, let's say, and he was the last driver to transfer in to this Vidane Marketing Solutions 88, qualified 43rd this evening of 43 cars, and kind of just riding here right now and trying to plot his next move with Mike Kelly in the 2, and still plenty of laps to get it done. We're not even to the halfway point in this race yet, so you still got some time to try to find your dancing partner and maybe let those guys in front of you get a little bit aggressive and let it play out with them and maybe knock off a couple of these cars.
As you look at these cars, the way they line up after each of these restarts and how they settle in, right now, freight train. Everybody's kind of single file, hugging that yellow line, settled down after the big incident. It tends to change the perspective a little bit, and they all seem to be settled in. It means it's a good time to tell you that this race is brought to you by Transervice Transportation and Logistics Solutions. They have a history of service, a tradition of excellence. Visit them on the web at transervice.com. The Transervice Cup Rookie Championship is sponsored by racingbids.com. Racing collectibles for race fans. Their live auctions are available through facebook.com/racingbids and by Kong Beer Bomb. Be the life of the party. Visit kong2drunk.net and make the good times better. There is Byron Daly charging to the outside of Scott Stenzel. Stenzel has Marinek out to the high side. And now, all of a sudden, action's starting to pick up as they run down the back straightaway. Some of these drivers peeking out of line, seeing if they can advance their position.
Trying to position themselves to give them a decent run here in this middle stage of this race. It's kind of had a little bit of a slower start than what we at least saw at Daytona to kick off this season, but now I think these drivers are starting to feel, hey, we lost a lot of cars and a lot of good cars in that last track. Might be time now to try to ride a little bit. And I don't know if it's by attrition or not, Kevin, but we're seeing two distinct packs right now. We kind of saw it off that wide shot where there's a second pack starting to form back there, but I don't know if it's because of strategy or if it's because of some of the attrition that we've seen.
Yeah, hard to say. I think some of these drivers realize there's still quite a few laps to go with this racetrack being as big as it is. It does take a while to get there. I see Scott Stenzel that last time around had the 24 of Marinek to his outside. I think he was trying to make sure that he gave plenty of room, and he actually touched the apron. The car got a little nervous, came up, and good news for him is that Marinek was up to the high side about a lane and a half and allowed Stenzel to catch the car. Nervous moment over there, and now Stenzel ducks out of line. Some of these drivers, they just don't particularly care, Tim, to drive and try and hug that yellow line. It's nerve-wracking.
We've kind of been bouncing back and forth, and I'm going to see if Paul can bounce one more time as we got one lap car up there. But that second pack that we see here on your screen, you've got Donnie Leah and Joey Gattina. Those two cars kind of look fairly clean. Then you've got Jeff Ryan, who looks like he's backed into a telephone pole in the 3, or he's got a little bit of a wedgie on the back end. You got Glenn Campbell back here in the Transervice 44. Robert Gilliland in the 4. Elliot Henderson's got damage on the front and the back. So I think we're kind of seeing a little bit of the second pack, and it's falling back from that first pack, Kevin. I think we're kind of seeing a little bit of, there's some damaged cars here just trying to stay in this draft, and then you've got some cars that are kind of anticipating something to happen in front of them and trying to conserve their car and keep it clean.
This is where you start to get nervous in that second pack. If they run green all the way through, it's pretty hard to make something happen. And you want to pull out and see if you can stay with that front pack, but you ultimately have to hope that you're going to find a caution or something that gets everybody back together. As the field's streaking around, you see a couple of these damaged cars. The 43 of Ross, the field went by them. Jose Gonzalez, his car, I don't know that he could even do 100 miles an hour, and he just pulled in to pit road. That car is shot. The 13 of David Comstock off the pace. So a couple of these drivers, it's going to be a long 44 laps as we cross into halfway. The field broken up at this point, Tim.
And we kind of saw that with Eric Arnold in that heat race that just before we came on the air, he had a lot of damage to his race car, and it was kind of able to putt around at about 140, 150, and then that thing all of a sudden got hot and lost the motor, and then that was it for the night. So some of these drivers that are kind of putting around here with a lot of damage, I wouldn't anticipate them to be around for very long, because eventually the motor is going to run out of oil as it seeps out, and that's going to be the end of it. So just keep an eye on some of those slower cars that are out here. Most of those drivers that you mentioned, though, Kevin, are full-time drivers in this Transervice Cup Series. They're here to get points, and guys like Brian Macklin and a few others that have had some decent runs this year, they can get a couple of more points here and there. If we have a couple of drivers point their way into the Transervice Cup Series playoffs, they might be able to look back and think of Talladega as that race.
Yeah, this is one of those racetracks where you love and hate it. And when you get to halfway and you say, I'm still in the fight, then maybe you warm up to it a little bit. It's hard to say how that works, but if you look at the way this works, depending on the capacity, and how full the racetrack is, 175,000 fans can fit in this place, and they're watching as they look from the grandstands 3 distinct packs ride around here. And the question is, can that second pack get organized and run down that first pack?
At this point, I don't really think they have to. Great little wide shot from the back straightaway, and you can kind of see the almost 4 packs. It's kind of a first pack and then a second pack of 5 that's split into a 3 and a 2, and they're kind of floating in the middle, and then this second pack, per se, or this third pack is there as well. So I don't know if it's by design or not. I think for some of these drivers in this third pack, it is by design, but I don't think we've seen the end of the yellow flags yet this evening either. So if you're riding back here, and they're all on the same kind of wavelength, I would think, Kevin, where we're just going to ride. We're going to wait for those drivers in front to maybe make a mistake. We'll see that caution flag, and we'll be able to bunch back up. Some of these drivers are just holding on for dear life with damage, but I kind of like this wait and see and kind of play around with the back strategy right now.
Joey Bailey picked up the lead, lap number 28. We're working lap number 48. And as I look at that one pack back there, Gilliland, you look right in front of him at Glenn Campbell and Joey Jattina and Jeff Ryan. Those guys always tend to work together. You got Donnie Leah in that mix. And I suspect that they'll all communicate. And if they can get nose to tail and stay organized, I believe they have a fast enough pack there that they could potentially run that top group down.
The downside is that they really haven't been showing it a whole lot, and for the most part, they've been single file, give or take. A couple of drivers kind of poking their nose out for air, but they remain about 6.5 to 7 seconds or so back behind this pack, and at one point they were 3 and 4 seconds, and I don't know if they've backed it up enough just to be that 6 or 7 seconds, just enough that if something happens way up the road, and you kind of saw it off that wide shot, that if you're Donnie Leah, you can see those guys going into turn 3 right there, and it's just enough that if something does happen, you have an opportunity to miss it. As Joey Gattina gives a shove to that number 29 down into the corner, and they lap Jose Gonzalez again. That'll put the 26 car, I believe, a 5th lap down.
You see the field streaking by also Richard Beasley out there running by himself. I'm wondering if Richard can tuck down and possibly hook on to that group, and we'll see whether or not his car is damaged. As they went by, he was kind of slow to get down below, and they're driving off from him. So I'm not sure if that 10 is up to full song.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it is, and right now there's only 2 drivers that are 1 lap down, Richard Beasley being one of them and David Comstock being the other, and David is running by himself too. So for what it's worth, in those 2 drivers, Richard has had let's call a spade a spade. It's kind of been a dismal season for Richard Beasley and the 10 team compared to where they want it to be. He was running, I think he finished 2nd or 3rd in the Rookie of the Year chase last year, and kind of anticipated a better season, but a sophomore slump per se now for the Verdane Super Speedway champion. And there is the 13 of Comstock. I believe that is going a 2nd lap down. So that leaves Richard Beasley as the only driver 1 lap down, and it is 29 drivers in the lead lap, Kevin, and they are all keeping up with 1 draft or the other, at least at this point.
Yeah, Beasley currently 16th in the standings. That's not where we're accustomed to see him. And I think he only has 1 top 10 to speak of this season. So certainly a couple of these drivers maybe thought this was the place they could come in and turn that around. And unfortunately, that incident over number 2 squashed a lot of their dreams. But up front continues to be barely leading. And yep, AJ O'Rourke, he needs a season turnarounder. And maybe sitting there in 3rd tonight's going to be his night.
Maybe it will be. I know he is accustomed to these super speedways, likes these big race tracks, and you look back to Josh Williams and the 63, I believe that might be back there. That's the 18 of Kyle Taraska. Scott Stenzel is also in this pack as well, but EJ O'Rourke looking for a great run here this evening to kind of move him up the standings a little bit. We've seen some different winners this year, Kevin, but you'd have to believe at least somebody is going to point their way in to the playoffs. And if you're a guy like Richard Beasley, you're kind of on that cusp saying, if I fall back anymore, I'm kind of not going to make it in on points where I have to win. If I get a couple of more points, then I'm a little bit closer towards that top 10 where I might find myself in a position to advance to the playoffs on points. So we're thinking about playoffs right now that are going to happen in the fall, but one small little misstep here and there could send you on that spiral. We've seen it already with Brian Macklin.
Yeah, and these drivers know when they circle the date coming in here to Talladega that because you run nose to tail in these packs, it's always a crapshoot when you come in here. You sometimes you're just thankful to get out of here with the top 10, top 15 and not be wrecked. And when you see everybody else have misfortune, then you try to hope that you could settle in and capitalize on that. And some of these drivers, quite frankly, they need a good run. And well, even Beasley riding around here, he's going to gain some points over someone because it does have the potential later to have a big crash. And if that occurs, he'll get by a couple more drivers and gain some more points.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't fall a 2nd lap down, he would get that free pass because there's nobody in danger of falling a 1st lap down right now. Everybody is in one draft or another. As you see the personal comfort 63 of Stenzel there. There is the number 12 on your screen, and that's Scott Simley running at the back of this pack. Stefan Marinick in the 24 also back here kind of hanging on, and Bobby Wetzel's got a little help from Tommy Ryan, and haven't spoke a whole lot about Jason Barham this evening, but the 83 is hanging out here in this kind of 2nd pack, kind of hanging in the middle of these 2 packs, one in front of them and one behind them.
Yeah, and you look at that front group and you recognize all the names, of course. Gilliland has not had the greatest season, but he's certainly been fast enough. But you have to wonder, Kyle Taraska, Daniel Faulkingham, is it luck or skill that has them still in the hunt, for a potential win here tonight? Some of these drivers, boy, they just seem to know how to make their own line.
Yeah, Kyle has had an up-and-down season on the sim side, obviously. We've documented on the real-world side. He's been to victory lane in the Turkey Derby already this year. But He's had a couple of good runs. We've talked to him a couple of post-race interviews. Daniel Faulkingham has had a string of second-place runs, and we got cars coming to pit road. Look at this. Final pit stop, I believe, of the evening happening here, and they're all coming down, or at least a lot of them from that lead pack coming down.
Yeah, it looks like a reasonable run, although I saw one driver slide through, and Daniel Faulkingham is going to end up picking up the lead. He did not head to pit road. He's got Kevin Brown right behind him along with Pedro Mojica, but first run of cars going in to top off, and I agree with you. I think this is the final for them. Looks like Williams is going to lead him off pit road.
It was Joey Bailey that overshot his box just a little bit because he was one of the first ones to come down and at least hit his pit box after the qualifying effort that he had this evening. So we'll see if this forces the hand of Faulkingham, Brown, and the rest of them as they drive by. At least your leaders are going to drive by. I think a couple of them decided they were going to come down, and there's a couple of more that kind of almost faked and maybe missed a little bit. We're still green flag racing. Everybody keeps it straight, but there was a close call, I think, there at the end of pit road.
Yeah, I think Simley coming into his box may have slid it through. It looked like he had to back up a little bit as Faulkingham continues to lead Brown off of turn number 2. And the question is, when will they come in? You know, some of these drivers maybe are looking for the yellow, but I don't see the advantage from that. Certainly you want to be in earlier, so if a yellow comes out, you'll be in front of those drivers that have to come in still.
Yeah, I think you're just waiting a couple of extra laps. Everybody's going to make that one more pit stop regardless, as you see Faulkingham come off of the banking at a turn 4, and they're going to streak by with the 93 of Brown and Pedro Mojica in behind. They'll come by, complete lap number 57 on the racetrack. I don't think there's a whole lot of an advantage or a disadvantage, at least right now, but these drivers are used to running at the front of this field, and they've got a little bit of help in behind, but that pack a lot smaller than it was a couple laps ago.
Yeah, my sense is I'd like to go to pit road and get that service out of the way. If the yellow comes out now, those drivers that were just on pit road, if they're good to go to the finish and they don't need tires, chances are they're going to stay out and you're going to line up behind them. So for Faulkingham, unless they feel like staying here together and being organized is going to allow them to drive off, and after they come out the pit, they'll have some sort of advantage. That might be what they're trying to contemplate there. But the three of them have a field pack of multiple cars right behind them that is led by Tommy Ryan. And the question is Ryan closing the gap? Will he make this a multi-car field? I think that's going to happen.
The only thing that I can think of, too, is that if something does happen that we do end up using up 2 green-white checker finishes at the end of this race, just go a little bit farther to make sure that you have insurance. But I think they can go around 40, so they'd have plenty of that insurance in the tank as long as they pack it full of the virtual Sunoco race fuel. As we'll see the leaders come up this time at a corner number 4. We'll complete lap number 59 this time by. Will it be Daniel Faulkingham leading it on the racetrack? He, along with his 2 friends in behind, will remain on the racetrack, as will this little pack here led by Tommy Ryan. So 59 completed, and it'll be Daniel Faulkingham leading this field around.
Certainly that group with Tommy Ryan is closing the gap. They closed 3/10 down that time by as they go past the stricken car of Gonzalez to the outside. Slow cars yielding the lower line, which is the preferred line. But Ryan and friends, Wetzel has got the 83 of Barham and Chad Cullum. They are going to make this a 7-car pack in just a moment.
And they're
Byron Daly's on the back of that pack too.
Yeah, and the laps are starting to click off here very quickly. 60 laps going to be completed this time by, so 28 laps remaining. These laps are clicking off fairly quickly, and just taking a look back here, I think the drivers that did decide to come down to pit road are going to be 21st on back right now, at least on our scoring monitor, and it's led by Josh Williams. There's that pack of drivers that have already come down onto pit road, or at least the start of those drivers that have already come down into pit road. So we have 20 drivers that are on the racetrack right now on the lead lap and haven't come down onto pit road, at least in this little cycle of green flag pit stops. And Faulkingham will drive by here and down into corner number 3, and we'll see this time whether he decides he's going to come down onto pit road. This pack that you're seeing now, virtually about a half lap down.
Cloud cover over the speedway as it's partly cloudy here today, and every once in a while the sun ducks behind. They're going to continue to go around. One advantage that they're going to have is when they go to pit road, it won't take as much fuel to fill them up. It might mean a shorter pit stop, which could mean the difference between a victory here today or whether you're going to have to wrestle with everybody else.
And one of those drivers may be Adam Gilliland, because Gilliland just went a lap down. Not sure what he had go wrong in his pit stop, Kevin, but the 81 just went a lap down to Daniel Faulkingham. So that's definitely not going to help the chances of the 81. He's going to have to hope for maybe a caution to get a free pass to get himself back on the lead lap. But the 39 of Daniel Faulkingham, the 93 of Kevin Brown, and the 58 of Pedro Mojica continue to lead. They come up at a corner number 4, and they will stay on the racetrack this time.
Yeah, and Gilliland kind of disrupted everybody as they went down the backstretch and mixed the field up. Now they're getting organized again and coming back to single file. Bobby Wetzel was the odd man out. He kind of got popped out of that group and had to cycle back to the back of that pack. As now they're going to catch a couple other cars, and the question is, will those cars have any impact to this front-running group? Will they blend in? It looks like they're going to drive up, and they're going to have to tack on to the back of it.
And now you have we're going to have to fight for the free pass. There it is right there. There's the free pass spot right there as Adam Gilliland got by Simley, and now he's going to have to get by, well, these two damaged cars, I believe, up here of Richard Beasley, and that's the 8 of Randy Yoakum. So they're already laps down, but now you've got battles within battles right now. You got the 81 of Adam Gilliland trying to fight for a free pass spot with the number 12 of Simley, so keep that in mind. And I don't think these drivers here are in danger of catching what would be the next pack of about 8 or so. We saw it earlier with Josh Williams. I don't think they're in danger of that. And oh, by the way, Faulkingham and Kevin Brown and most of these drivers in this pack are going to have to come down pit road one more time to get fuel in the race car, but they're going to have to take less fuel, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, than the drivers did before.
Yet if you're someone like Byron Daly in that little exchange that occurred over there in turn number 4, you have all these little mental races that go on. He's riding behind the 81. The 81 is a lap down. That puts him one car length back from the cars in front of him. Is that going to mean the difference between victory later when he tries to run up and do whatever? So he gets past the 81 when it jumped out of line, and he pulls up and checks the box. That little victory is in his mental headspace. How many times when you run these races you think about those little moments that add up to the potential for a win? And that's just the way these drivers' mental game goes when you're out there and you're running in the car.
Absolutely it is. You have to take everything that you can, whether it's those little moral victories or maybe bigger moves on the racetrack, but you always put that in the back of your mind, especially if you're a race car driver, because most of these race car drivers do not forget whether it is big or small. They'll come by this time, complete lap number 65 on the racetrack. And you mentioned a little bit earlier, Kevin, that the cloud cover on this racetrack, it's getting, I don't want to say dark, but it's starting to get a little bit darker. You can kind of see it on the camera compared to where we began this evening. In session time, we're getting closer to 6 p.m., so obviously it's a little bit later. It's May 15th in the session, so we're not going to hit darkness. This racetrack does not have lights, but it's starting to get to that end of the day. You can start seeing that sun kind of setting a little bit there, down over 3 and 4 on that wide shot.
Yeah, and as we say that, the sun peeks out and lets the gleam off the racetrack come into the windshields of these cars. And I'm watching what the 81 is doing. I'm trying to figure out what his plan here is. I don't know if he's trying to see if he can race his way back up. He's using the side draft right now on the 9 of Bobby Wetzel, looking to see if he can use something to that outside lane. But I think all these drivers are content to ride in line. If I'm them, I'm going to stay single file to about 5 to go, and then I'm going to figure out what my race-winning move is.
Well, at this point, you're battling with the 12, which is almost side-by-side with you right now in Simley for the free pass, but assuming that if a caution were to come out, all these drivers in front of him would come down pit road anyway. He would get the wave around Adam unless something happened on his pit stop that put him back there. Maybe he didn't take enough fuel. He would get that free pass. He would come around the leaders and get back on the lead lap as these guys will bypass pit road one more time, complete lap number 67 on the racetrack. So 21 laps to go this time by for Daniel Faulkingham and the rest of this front pack. And I think Jason Barham may have thrown the hand out the window that time. He's on the back end here, or maybe he's just trying to hang out there. I kind of saw the chat pop up there, Kevin. Not sure if he's coming down on the pit road, but there's right in behind him. That was the free pass battle side by side between Gilliland and Simley. There it is right there.
Yeah, actually in that exchange, the 24 of Stefan Marinick had dropped into that lead pack. He's sitting the fourth car in line, and he's in the free pass position. And I think Gilliland was just trying to do whatever he could to try and get up there and get to that 24. Backfired for him. He's now back in the stack as Jose Gonzalez takes his crumpled Goya can back to pit road one more time.
And now we have 20 laps remaining on this race, and it's go time now. You got those drivers that are in this pack, with the exception of the 24 of Marinick, on the lead lap. We know they're going to have to come down pit road one more time and at least top off the tank a little bit to get to the end of the race. And then we saw some of those drivers that were up there kind of back off a little bit, maybe not by choice, but back off that lead draft. And this is, when we talk about strategy on most of these races, having a green flag run, I knew we were going to get a green flag run out of this, Kevin, as the 39 will bypass pit road once again this time. I knew we were going to get a green flag run. I didn't know we were going to get a green flag run this late after all these cautions, but it comes full circle with this Transervice Cup Series once again. We're talking about strategy late in the race.
You know, trying to figure out if this second group has the leg up on this or not. Led by the 95, but kind of watching the lap times, and the 95 is 35 seconds back. And then, you know, you also have that group led by Donnie Leah. They're 10 seconds back off the lead. So there's a bunch of different packs around here, and it's kind of hard to see how this is all going to play out.
Yeah, you've got a couple of packs around here. You got Doy Woods, Nelson Rivera, Derek Pemberton, and Elliot Henderson kind of running together as well. It's hard to keep an eye on everybody as you look through this little pack. There's a lot going on from this lead pack that we have back to a second, a third, and a fourth pack as Donnie Leah. That second pack is coming down to the pit road. Donnie Leah, Josh Parker, Jeff Ryan, Glenn Campbell among them down on the pit road, and everybody clean on, and it looks like the other pack behind going to follow suit.
Yeah, Leah good into his box. See Gillenwater just about to drop into his, and the 11 of Jimmy Coleman coming in for service. 19 of Tyler Dalton looking for his pit box. Of 23, Josh Parker slots into his. We'll see who wins this battle off, but you're right, that group, all of them, came together in harmony to go to pit road.
And at the other end of pit road, the leaders are coming down. It's Daniel Faulkingham, Kevin Brown, Pedro Mojica leading this field down onto pit road. Close call, I believe, with Marinick as Byron Daly gets on the binders. Everybody coming down onto pit road. That was in this lead pack on the lead lap. Now we'll see everybody shake out. And we'll go back to that pack that was led by the 95 of Josh Williams as everybody starts to kind of get this thing shaken out a little bit. That is your leader on the racetrack right now. It's Jason Barham scored as your leader.
And the answer to our questions is about to come to pass. It's the 95 of Josh Williams. Likely could be the leader, but will he get to the 39 of Faulkingham? We see a lot of drivers down on that apron over there in turn number one. The 95 rolls through turn number one. He goes past the 93, and yep, this is going to clear it. He's going to roll past the 39. Now the question is, can the 39 group come up to speed and catch these guys?
There are your final two cars coming on the pit road, and Jason Barham and Bobby Wetzel, and now it's the accordion coming back together as Daniel Faulkingham and the 58 of Pedro Mojica and the 93 of Kevin Brown are going to have some work to do to catch those drivers in front of them, led by Josh Williams, EJ O'Rourke, Kyle Tarasca, Scott Stenzel, Joey Bailey, and the 2 of Mike Kelly. And this should all cycle out this time by as the final couple of cars. There's Wetzel and Barham. The last two on the green flag cycle at pit stop. So it'll put Josh Williams to the top of the board.
So as things net out, it looks like Faulkingham about 2 seconds back from Williams, O'Rourke, Tarasca, Stenzel, and Bailey. Mike Kelly, that's going to slot Faulkingham in the 7th position. And now those drivers up front really need to be organized and stay nose to tail and just keep driving to see if they can maintain that and steal this victory amongst themselves.
5 cars or 6 cars, check that, in this pack that are on the lead lap and want to settle it amongst themselves, as you mentioned, Kevin, but there's some drivers in behind them, and that pack might be just as big, if not bigger. So if they can get in line and you know, try to make some headway there, but you kind of see them off the back. They lost a little bit of time that last time by, just a couple of tenths or so from the first pack to the second pack. So it's going to be trying to manage the gap here. I think this front pack might have one more car, though.
Yeah, the question is, who's the hungriest in that group? You know that Mike Kelly, he wants to get himself a victory for sure. And you're looking at guys, Stenzel, an opportunity presents. EJ O'Rourke has not found victory lane, wants to get it. And, well, I'll tell you, this is going to be fun. I believe that second group, though, by sheer will track these guys down.
And obviously, I can't count. You see 6 here in this front draft, and then you look back and you see 6 in the second pack. You see it right there is the 13. It comes off, or check that might be the 8 of Randy Yoakum coming off of pit road. They both look the similar Snap Mobile sort of paint schemes, but Josh Williams up in front, leading this pack around. You got a second pack there as well. One dropping out of line almost. That was Kyle Tarasca. The second pack definitely gained time the last time by the stripe. So we might have a pack of 12 set to battle for this win here in the Transervice Cup Series at Talladega.
I think you can almost bank on it. They were about 4/10 of a second faster that time by, and visibly off of turn 4. You could see them closing the gap. The question lies, when they get there, can they jump to the outside and make the run? And wow, look at how much the 58 is pushing the 39. They're about 10 miles an hour faster than everybody else right now, almost.
And they've now caught that lead draft. They've caught that slipstream. They're there. It's now a matter of how they make their moves in the final 12 and a half laps of competition to try to take away the win. Josh Williams is your leader, but now he's got 11 more friends to contend with for this win.
I was being facetious, but I actually looked at the timing, and he was at least 4 miles an hour faster there, Daniel Faulkingham, at some point with the 58 to his back bumper. He's not going to work with Stenzel. He's going to go to the outside. He's got the tap-out tuning 58 on his back bumper, and the two of them, a formidable force. Maybe they're going to shake up this front group.
And you get a couple of drivers in this pack working together. Obviously, we mentioned the personal comfort team working together, being in the same voice channel. You got some team name drivers in here as well, with Daniel Faulkingham, with Pedro Mojica, Byron Daly, Chad Coleman at the back of this pack. So there's some drivers in there as well that are going to try to work this thing together. Tommy Ryan is a part of this lead draft as well, so don't count out the 99 as we work forward at the end of this race. There are some drivers here that I don't think we've heard the last of that are going to go for this win.
So this front group came together, that second group led by Donnie Lee, 14 seconds off, and I don't know that they're closing. They're going to need these guys to mix it up and throw a caution if they're going to be a part of this.
Yeah, that now what would be the second pack in behind is going to need a little bit of help to get there. They're just going to run out of laps. That pack led by Donnie Lee, that's about 14 seconds in behind. Took a quick look down at the Discord channel, and Kevin Brown is a part of that team name channel here tonight as well. So you've got Faulkingham, you've got the 93 of Kevin Brown, you've got I believe that's Pedro Mojica to the outside. Oh, those three are working together. Is Scott Stenzel, another bold move, and that's the second one that he's pulled since this field has kind of come together. He's almost, I don't want to say he's playing the roadblock back there, but got some teammates ahead of him with personal comfort on the side of their race car, so maybe he's the one that's designated to play the fullback, I guess it is.
Yeah, he's making me nervous as they juke and jive, and it's always disconcerting to see these cars dart left, dart right, and that other group's up there like, come on, crash, crash.
I think the biggest thing right now is if you're those guys that are racing in that same channel of team name like Kevin Brown and Daniel Faulkingham, I think your biggest ally right now, I don't really want to say that, but your biggest friend right now trying to get through. Oh, there's Faulkingham. What a save by the 39 of Faulkingham off the 63 of Stenzel. But I think those guys up there, if they can work with Mike Kelly, who really doesn't have a whole lot of help. He's got Tommy Ryan there, but I don't know if those two drivers really work together a whole lot. But if they can hook up with the team name guys, bring them towards the front of the field, there's some teamwork to be done here. I'm sure there's some spotters talking back and forth to each other.
Yeah, the 39 got quarter panel there, and I just don't know how he didn't turn right and go all the way to the wall. And then when he ducked back in, he made a super aggressive move to get back in because he had the potential of losing the draft. And I think that slice back in to get behind these cars saved him from falling off. And I see some of these drivers back there testing some runs. This might actually end up helping Faulkingham because if the 33 backs up to him, they can get nose to tail. They might be able to get a run and learn something from the back of this pack.
I've got my eye on the 38 of Chad Coleman back here. He's one of those drivers that you don't usually hear a whole lot about until the end of the race, and he loves these super speedway races. So don't count out Chad Coleman. He's got Pedro Mojica there. They've got 8 laps to get it done. Still plenty of time, but you mentioned trying to test those moves out. Now might be the opportunity to try to do that if you're going to come out ahead of Josh Williams and E.J. O'Rourke and those drivers at the front of the field. You don't want to try it too early, Kevin, but if you're those drivers there and you're trying to make the move, you might want to try to start testing the waters just a bit as you see Kevin Brown in that second group there.
Yeah, this group's starting to get racy. They're going to go too wide coming off here on turn number 4. Looking back there at that second group, they actually shaved this second off, but I think you're right. Too late. There's no way they're going to get up here to be able to contest for this.
They're going to need some help. I don't think they. I think they can get up there. There's that second pack that's a little bit far back right now. It's still been about 13 seconds or so back there, but this front pack, and we've got a challenge from Byron Daly with a little help to the outside from Daniel Faulkingham. The battle for the lead is going to be intensifying a little bit here because these drivers at the back are starting to make something happen.
Yeah, and Stenzel's going to join that outside lane, but I don't think those 3 cars are going to have enough. I just don't feel like unless they get some numbers up there, they're going to be able to make something. But if this race continues the way it's going to go, your winner is going to be in this front pack somewhere.
But do you remember how Daytona ended at the very end where we had a couple of lap cars in the front of the field a little bit slow and everybody had to dodge and dive and try to get their way around, and it ended up being Brian Macklin barely coming home with the win. As much as Josh Williams and E.J. O'Rourke and Kyle Taraska have the same sponsor, have personal comfort, they're kind of working together. As much as they are working together, they all want to win, and for those 3 up in front, they're still trying to crack that win and trying to really make the statement this season in the Transervice Cup Series. I don't think E.J. O'Rourke, as much as he's a gentleman, Kevin, I think he probably turned the 95 for a win if he had the opportunity to.
No doubt. And we've seen it before, and we've seen EJ in the air going through as the starters band, winning races, I think on at least 2 occasions that I can recall. So certainly he's just sitting right there measuring up the move, and you got to have that question, when to make that move. 2 to go, 1 to go, coming off the turn 4. The 93 sideways, everybody takes evasive action. It's picking up here.
Yeah, Tommy Ryan gave a little bit of a hip check to the driver on the outside of him. They're going to come up on 3 more cars. So this is going to be fairly interesting here in these final couple of laps, but those 3 look very strong up in front. Haven't had a whole lot of opportunity for drivers to mount that charge. Chad Coleman, Pedro Mojica working together, but Kevin Brown, I'm surprised Kevin didn't kind of go with them, as we're going to have some company up here with some lap cars.
Yeah, Coleman just got left to the wind, and Pedro, his car was dancing off turn 2 last time. I thought Daniel did a good job kind of staying off of him because he could have certainly nicked him a little and turned him around. I think none of these drivers want to see a caution. They'd love to settle it amongst themselves, but these guys that are in the back of that pack, they're certainly trying to do whatever they can. They want to be second, third, fourth if they can help it.
Yeah, they want to be up there and have an opportunity to make an evasive move coming to the white flag if they can be there and kind of make that happen. And then you see a couple more cars go a lap down, David Comstock being one of them, Richard Beasley falling a lap down, one more lap down. But you got a couple of cars here at the back. What can they do? Are they positioned to make a move if something does happen? Byron Daly dancing around right behind Elliott Henderson. It's go time now. If you're in the middle of this pack and you want to win, you got to make that move. 3 laps to go.
Our focus has certainly been this top group, but certainly now they're 11 seconds back, that second group, and some of those drivers are going to want to try and advance, and maybe the caution's going to come from back there. And in fact, there it is. Caution on the speedway, and I'm not sure where it is, but it doesn't look like it's in this front pack.
It is not. I believe it's Doy Woods that is slow on the apron to bring out the caution flag. And bad opportune time for those drivers up in front, Paul, but they're bringing in tough break for Doy Woods.
Yeah, tough break for Doy back here, kind of drafting along a little 4-car pack here. And it looks like he gets a little bit of a bump that's not quite square, and we've seen that happen with a lot of the drivers here throughout the evening. That's Doy Woods in the 07 Havoline machine there. And there you can see doesn't quite get square on the back bumper of the 12, and sends he and the 12 car of Scott Simley around and threw up into that outside wall. So tough break for Doy, tough break for the 12 car, and really a tough break for the guys up front that were getting ready to kind of battle it out. But this is going to give us an opportunity, a green-white checkered, to kind of set everything up and kind of separate the men from the boys, see who's going to be able to. We've seen who's been strong on these long runs, who's going to be strong on the short run to the finish.
This, as they say, changes everything. I still believe that Williams will have a good shot at this from out front. They're going to pick up the pace car over in 3 and 4, and if he gets a good restart, then it's game on. Tim, this is where some of those tandem combos that we saw earlier, drivers hooking nose to tail, they may actually run from anywhere in this pack and steal this race away.
Yeah, it was Josh Williams' race, I think, with E.J. O'Rourke behind him, with Kyle Tarasca there. It was his race to lose, and we can play what if all we want to all night long, but now he's going to have an opportunity to win it on at one of potentially 2 green-white checker finishes, but he's got some talent behind him that wants to win. That pack of a dozen or so is now going to be the full field, and now we got some drivers that might not necessarily have been in the discussion for a top 10, maybe a top 5, that are going to have the opportunity if the right line and the right move presents itself.
Let me see if I can make a prediction. The order in which they're running right now will not be the order in which they finish this race. What do you think about that, Tim?
That's a bold prediction. I don't know about the top 3 with the way that they've been running. Joey Bailey always presents himself, or at least he has this season. He's one of the rookie contenders in the SIM500 Transervice Cup Series, but ran well, got a good finish at Daytona, and he's up here in the mix as well. The drivers that we're used to seeing up in front in a super speedway race are there. Those names are there. The contenders are there. It's just a matter of where they end up and where they finish. As it looks like the blue cone might have had an incident back there. I think Richard Beasley. Yeah. I think that might have been the only thing that Richard Beasley didn't hit tonight besides the pace car. He's had a rough night.
Yeah, that was one of those dodgeball cotton moments. You look at this pack and you say, well, the 2's had a good race, but he's had a tough season. And if I'm Mike Kelly, as much as I'd love to win this race, I'd also like to finish the race. That's what's going through the brains of some of these guys. And you know that you have a couple of these restart aces. The 58's been great all year long. The 39 certainly has been stout. and it's really up to Williams to kick the wheel, and it's about friends. Do you have somebody who's going to stay with you, or are they going to leave you high and dry on the backstretch over there and go for the win themselves?
Especially with the way this season is playing out, I don't think you can really have friends. You can have teammates. You can be in the same voice communication channel. I don't think there's going to be any friends, especially if you're a guy like E.J. O'Rourke and Joey Bailey and maybe those team name guys we mentioned earlier like Kevin Brown and Chad Coleman and some of those guys. If you have an opportunity to get a victory in this series, you're going to try to take that playoff ticket. It's plain and simple. Josh Williams, he's obviously leading the race. That's kind of where you want to be, but it's not the greatest position coming down to a green-white checker finish, especially if you're leading when you're coming to the white. With the way this package is, I think you have a little bit of an advantage, but not as much as you would on another track as the lights go out atop the pace car. We'll send our first attempt at a green-white checker off next time by.
You have to believe that the personal comfort guys have said, let's work together, and then if we can get to turn 4, then it's a free-for-all, and you could do whatever, just have one of us win. That would be a good team strategy, and the rest of them sitting behind him are saying, the personal comfort guys are going to work together. We got to do whatever we can to break them up, but, it all changes. It's like a battle plan. As soon as you get into the battle, everything changes, and you can't count on anything. So this, as they say, is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, you got to do what you have to do to put yourself in victory lane and get that win and punch your ticket potentially into the playoffs. If you're those guys that are outside the top 5, you really have to throw a Hail Mary because these drivers up in front, the personal comfort sponsored drivers, Josh Williams, the 41 on the outside of E.J. O'Rourke, they've been so strong here this evening. Kyle Tarasca being one of them as well. So strong. They know what they have. But you look back there now, those team name guys have kind of picked up a couple of cars, including Josh Parker, that might have an opportunity to push. I don't think you're going to win the race, Kevin, on a green-white checker from 14th place. But you might have an opportunity if things go the right way here to pick up at least a top 10 and maybe if the right cars scatter coming to the line, maybe even a top 5.
Yeah, we've seen that happen, though, on Verdane TV. We've seen a 13th place, 14th place car win, and somebody like Donnie Leah sitting back there in 13th might see the C's part and get themselves a victory here. We'll never know until we get to that checkered flag. Pace car is in. It's going to be up to Josh Williams to kick it off, and he's going to do just that here in just a moment. And everybody tighten up. You can hear the revs of the motors. We're about to finish this race, and it's been exciting. Hope you're pleased at watching the event as green flag is out. Williams side by side heads to turn number 1, and everybody's throttled down.
They've got to get back to the white flag to make this thing official. If not, we would see one more green-white checker attempt, and we've seen cars kind of hook up and be the dominant pair on some of these restarts. Got one wrecking in the back, and that will draw the caution flag, so the yellow flag will come back out. I was about to say, I think it was Chad Coleman on the outside having a run with maybe Josh Parker, but that's all for naught. We'll have one more opportunity to see a green-white checker flag finish potentially to this one, but Paul, middle of the pack or so is what brought this yellow flag out and brought us to a standstill again.
Yeah, just taking a quick peek here towards the back of the pack there. You see the 13 has a lot of nose damage on the front of the car on the restart. And we're going to kind of do a wide-angle shot here at full speed. And you can see the guys in the back, a lot of damaged cars back here, just really trying to bide their time and just make it to the end of the race. And there's the contact up front. And actually a couple of, or a driver airborne there. See if we can get...
Yeah, I believe that's Doy Woods, the 19, tagged him in the back, turned him sideways. So Doy finding even more problem, and that was spectacular.
Yeah, one of those big hits, and there you can see some 3-wide action leading up to that. So that is definitely a sketchy situation. You see the 3 trying to come down, trying to go high, and, well, he goes underneath the 07 car of Doy Woods, and a violent wreck. There you see him still flipping down the straightaway. Finally gets that thing... on the ground anyway, sticks the landing, grabs the gear, gets on going again. He's still scored 26th right now. So Doy not having the night he wanted, but definitely putting on a show like only Doy Woods knows how to do.
Yeah, Kevin, we really didn't get to see it, but the 19 car of Tyler Dalton got into the back of him, and that hit was nowhere near square. I don't know what was going on there, but that's what sparked it off, and we'll see one more attempt at this to try to finish this race under green, and Josh Williams will have to do the same thing he did in that last restart, but we saw Chad Coleman and I believe it was Josh Parker try to get that run to the outside and that two-car kind of tandem, but it didn't play out as we see the 95 car coming on the pit road.
That's interesting. Did he not have enough fuel? We saw a couple of these drivers riding on the apron, and I have to believe that the 95 didn't have enough fuel to get to the finish. He's going to have to top off.
There's a splash and go. That's tough for Josh Williams.
That's got to be heartbreaking.
Mentioned that earlier, though, with guys like Faulkingham staying out a little bit and potentially having that little bit of a cushion to get those extra laps. And did the field lag back long enough for Josh to get fuel and keep the lead?
I don't know. It does look strange. Is he going to drive by the pace car here? It's still showing him on the scoring monitor as the leader.
Yeah, the 95 was able to catch up to the pace car, come down into pit road. The leaders in behind, EJ O'Rourke and the like, were so far behind that, and I'm just as flabbergasted, I think, as you are, Kevin.
We just saw the 41 go past the pace car there. I guess we'll just have to wait for everybody to get lined up here to see what's going on.
I'm trying to go back to see myself, and the only thing that the 95 does his job catching up to the back of the pace car. He speeds up to catch up, and it's almost like EJ didn't have the same speed to catch up to the pace car. I don't want to say that was planned because I don't think it was, but that's if he's able to get down and get that fuel and get ahead of the that's something.
I guess somewhere towards the end we can ask what that was all about, but as far as the scoring monitor shows, the 95's leading, the 18 is in second, the 41 is in third, and Joey Bailey in the 1 is sitting there in that fourth position. Mike Kelly rounds out your top 5, and the lights should go off on the pace car, and it's going to continue to show Williams as your leader.
I've seen a lot of things on this iRacing platform, and you and I, Kevin, have done a lot of sim racing together since the 2K3 days. I think that's a first. That's a first.
Yeah, I do agree. So what I learned on that restart is that they ran side by side coming up through the gears, and nobody had any major advantage through turn 1, through the middle of 1 and 2, and right to 2. But it sure seemed like coming off of 2, anybody that had that little head of steam was going to show us something to the back straightaway. And that's what I would anticipate is going to happen again here on this restart, unless the 95 is able to jump out. But I think, Tim, he's not going to want to get that big of a lead because we've seen how much of a draft these drivers get. When they get a run, they're going to run right around them.
Yeah, if I'm outside the top 5, 6, 7 or so, I need to find one partner that's going to give me a push or is going to push me and get me as close to the front of the field as I can, either A, before they wreck again to bring the yellow flag out, or B, to get back to the white to position ourselves with a chance to at least win this race. What happens in the white flag lap happens in the white flag lap. It is what it is. But you almost have to kind of think, hey, I need to put myself in a position. So if I'm Chad Coleman, I'm looking for a Daniel Faulkingham or a Josh Parker or a Pedro Mojica to try to get me a little bit closer towards the front of the field. If those three teammates, they're not sitting ducks because of the way they are and the way they're so strong in this race, but if those guys in behind them kind of find a dancing partner or two, I might have to be on my toes a little bit.
Shadows along here at Talladega as we get ready to close out the finish of this one. 25 cars on the lead lap getting ready to decide who's going to win it. Josh Williams is your leader with EJ O'Rourke to the outside. Both of them hungry for a win this season with Kyle Taraska, Joey Bailey right behind him. And looking at the opportunity, Mike Kelly, Kevin Brown make up row number 3. Pace car is going to turn the field over to Josh Williams this time by. And we have 2 green-white checkers, and we're working number 2. So whatever the next flag will be, that will end it. This pace car goes to pit road. It's up to Josh Williams to kick it off for the restart.
They need to get back to the white flag in order to race this thing out. We'll see the green flag first. We are back underway, and now we'll see what happens here. Top 4 get a decent breakaway from the drivers in behind them. That might not be a good thing if you're the top 4, but if you're Joey Bailey, you're glued to the back bumper. Oh, you were of EJ O'Rourke, and now EJ is kind of hung out to dry here.
Seeing drivers beat and bang on bumpers going through turn number 1 and 2. Hopefully everybody gets clean to the backstretch. The inside line has a good run, and they're going to break away. Will the outside line get a surge coming down the back straightaway? Kevin Brown trying to do all he can, but you're going to lose the help of Tommy Ryan, and it looks like the low line looks spectacular coming off of turn number 4 as Yellow's out on the speedway.
And that is going to do it as long as he doesn't run out of fuel. Josh Williams is going to be your winner here this evening at Talladega, but pushing and shoving just in the back half of the top 10, going to send a couple of these drivers around. And, it's a tough break for EJ O'Rourke, but that was... it's a tough break for him. Got kicked to the curb at the end. But Paul, one final caution puts us under the checkered flag here.
One final caution, one final Kong Beer Bong instant replay. And I want to focus in on the team guys up on the top there. You see the 38 of Chad Coleman. Josh Parker in the 23 gets a little bit of a sour push there and sends everybody along on their way. There you see big-time damage on the 38. The Ryan Machine at 3. Number 3 gets involved just a little bit there and kind of slows everybody down to a crawl here on the stretch. And that's the second attempt at the green-white checkered. So as we cross the line here, going to be the final lap. It'll be Joshua Williams. Like you said, Tim, as long as he can make it on fuel.
Yeah, as long as he can get back. We saw that one little pit stop, per se, Kevin. So I would think he'd be okay as we got Tommy Ryan locking it up on the banking down here in turn 3 and 4. And that's a weird slide for the 99. He's still rolling. I think he should be able to get back up here and finish in the position that he needs to be. But it looks like weird little lockup there. But Josh Williams going to potentially punch his ticket into the playoffs with his personal comfort number 95.
Yeah, so he did what he had to do. He got himself out front. Great pit strategy. They were able to beat that other pack out, and he just held on and kept everybody at bay. And as they come across here to the start-finish line, to your point, unless he runs out of fuel, it will be checkered flag for the 95.
And one of his personal comfort teammates, Kyle Taraska, going to come home in second. Joey Bailey, Mike Kelly, Pedro Mojica, your top 5. Kevin Brown, Tommy Ryan, Daniel Faulkingham, Scott Stenzel hanging into the top 10, and Byron Daly unofficially your top 10 as we complete this Transervice Cup Series race. Josh Parker, Donnie Leah, Glenn Campbell, Bobby Wetzel, Adam Gilliland 15th, Robert Gillenwater, Stefan Marinick, Jason Barham, Elliot Henderson, and Chad Coleman back to 20th place on the lead lap. Joey Gattina, Jimmy Coleman, Jeff Ryan, Scott Simley, Derek Pemberton, Tyler Dalton, Doy Woods, and what might have been for EJ O'Rourke. He is scored in the 28th place position at the end of this race. Nelson Rivera, Richard Beasley, both multiple laps down, or at least in the case of Richard Beasley, 4 laps down, and these drivers did not have a good night. David Comstock, Randy Yoakum, Jose Gonzalez, Doug Roth, Trey Edson, Cody Smith, Justin Fuller, and these drivers are still kind of seeping through here at the back. Brian Macklin, John Fowler, Omar, Cody Smith, and Danny Hansen back here as well. Mike Montesi and Thomas O'Leary out early. So that is your full field rundown, and Josh Williams going to be able to celebrate here on the front straightaway as your winner of the Vinane Marketing Solutions 88.
Comes down to the exit at pit road. He's going to salute the fans with some burnouts here on the start-finish line as he rolls past the Sunoco Tower to the start-finish line and lights them up to the delight of the fans. He's going to write his name here on the front straightaway. This is Talladega, and your winner tonight, Josh Williams, Outstanding race for the number 95.
Yeah, great finish for the 95. Will provisionally lock himself into the playoffs with a win here, and you'd have to believe that the 95 has had speed all season long. Just hasn't been able to close the deal. Now at Talladega, he's able to do so, and there's one more name to the list. And there's one more race that those drivers that we talked about earlier, those powerhouse names that haven't won yet, Kevin, are still searching for a win after Talladega.
It is kind of cool, though, to get another new winner on the season. And, you know, Josh has got 1 pole, 3 top 5s, 3 top 10s. He led the early point championship for quite a few races. He's since dropped down to 8th, but this is going to help his street cred. As I don't know if he's going to have any tires left. He's just smoking that thing down.
Yeah, still spinning the tires as we await our top 3 to have a brief conversation with our podium finishers here this evening with the Transervice Cup Series. But while we have an opportunity, while we wait for those top 3, Paul Strickland Jr., I'll bring you in. Wednesday night's a busy night. We'll get the upcoming events out of the way. And then did I hear something about a Thursday night league coming to Verdane?
Yeah, big things happening here for Verdane TV, and been so busy at Stafford Speedway this past weekend, didn't even get a chance to post anything about it. We did get the little bit of a notification out there. Thursday night, we're being joined by the Multi-League Racing Series, and that's the Crankenstein League, the Revved Up League, and the Fast Line. A couple of leagues getting together, and they, just like SIM500, race every single night, and we're going to be covering them on Thursday night, starting this week for their Cup Series. So very excited about that. A lot of new faces, a lot of new drivers, a lot of new sponsors and paint schemes that are going to come on the airwaves here at Verdane TV. And oh, by the way, that's Verdane TV LLC. Finally able to make the announcement that we are official. Verdane Marketing Solutions LLC is the official name of the company, but pretty cool to have that on board. And myself, I had the Xlander Designs deal way back when, a long time ago. A lot of the drivers in the SIM500 League did carry that particular logo, but now we're doing it officially under the Verdane banner, Verdane Marketing Solutions LLC, and we're going to be doing websites, hero cards, all sorts of different designs, whatever you need for your race team to kind of lighten the workload a little bit and allow you a little bit more time to work on your race car. But Kevin, I believe we're starting to get these top 3 drivers down here on pit lane to talk to us.
I think Kevin has walked away for a moment after that exciting finish. Josh Williams is your winner. Josh, 2 green-white checkers at the end of that. What was going through your mind when you saw that final restart come down?
I hope they would wreck, really. Don't ever know what's going to happen on the last corner with this new aero package they got. It's pretty easy for somebody to pull out and kind of get that spot. So I was kind of hoping we didn't make it to the trial, honestly, and hopefully somebody screw up in the back. But glad it all worked out.
Pit strategy came into play, especially on that long green flag run where we kind of didn't know what was going to happen. We saw a rash of cautions at the start. What was the mindset on that long green flag run with you guys having to duck in a little early?
Try to get all of our team to make it to the end, so we could all just get lined up and try to start gaining time on the lead back again, which it worked out pretty good just to get us our track position. And then we had so we kind of had control of the last few laps there.
We saw you kind of come down there and take a splash of fuel. How short were you at the end?
I was going to be really close on the green-white checker there, so I don't know if I was going to run out or not, but I didn't want to risk it.
We keep seeing some new names getting into victory lane and kind of punching the ticket to the playoffs. This league is so stout when it comes to drivers. How big is it to punch your ticket into the playoffs here at Talladega?
The biggest thing for me is I don't ever know when I'm going to miss a race with my real job. So hopefully making it to all of them, I feel like I'm pretty confident I can make the playoffs, but you never know if I'm going to miss one or not. So it's nice to have that if I do miss a race or two to kind of be locked in.
The pressure is off. Who is on this race car? Who's on the team that helps you get to victory lane tonight?
Personal comfort for sure. Scott Stedsel does a lot for a bunch of us in the league. So personal comfort mattresses, it's the best I've ever slept on. So here we are. We'll sleep good tonight.
That's Josh Williams, your winner. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Kevin, I believe we've caught up with our second place finisher as well, Kyle Taraska.
Yeah, Kyle coming off turn 2 at that final run, I think you had something in mind of staying with your teammate and maybe getting that challenge coming back, but yellow comes out and you had to settle for second tonight. Not a bad night's work, though.
Bad night at all. And, Josh and I and the rest of our team worked really good together throughout the race with pit strategy. And we cut it a little bit too close there with fuel, I think, at the end. But nonetheless, it worked out for both of us. I definitely wish I had the opportunity to race it out with Josh. But I wasn't going to put either of us in a position where one of us wasn't going to win the race. So I'm glad it worked out 1-2. Another solid points night for our team.
Yeah, Joey Bailey right behind you with the two of Mike Kelly. I would imagine the two of them would have kind of tried to figure something out. We were all commenting about the presence of personal comfort and the teamwork. How much did that play a factor in this race?
It was huge, and we always like to work together anyway. At these plate tracks, it seems like you can never have too many friends. And with this new aero package that Josh was talking about, it is really prone to running single file. And if you get a good group together that can stay committed to each other, it's really hard for some guys further in the pack to get a big run and pass you on the outside. So we were really committed to each other, really at a whole second half of the race as things got strung out, and it definitely played in our favor and put us in a good position at the end.
How aware were you guys of the Daniel Faulkingham group and when they caught you, the fact that you guys had the advantage when everybody matched back up?
Oh, we're very aware. I mean, we were keeping track of, we were able to see how much we were gaining on them after we pitted compared to how much they were gaining on us on some laps. And we had a general idea. I think we honestly came out a little bit closer to them, or they came out a little bit closer to us after it all cycled than what we initially anticipated. But, we knew that the biggest thing was just having the track position at the end. And like I said, it worked out today.
Coming into this race, 3 top 5, 6 top 10, solid season, currently sitting third in points.
Yeah.
Gotta feel good to get another top podium finish.
Definitely feels good. I definitely would like a win just so I could lock myself into the playoffs. But nonetheless, having a very consistent season so far. And I love these plate tracks. I mean, I came off at turn 4 at Daytona in position to win until I got wrecked, and felt like I had myself in a pretty good position to win tonight. And I won this race last year, so love the plate tracks. Having a good time this season, and looking forward to. I guess we're going to Kansas next week. So, and I won there last year too. So, see how it goes.
A lot of momentum, Big Mo on your side. Congratulations on your second place finish. Who helps you get it done here?
Just like Josh, Scott Stenzel, Personal Comfort. We are the Personal Comfort B team, I guess, for this year at SIM500. So definitely a lot of appreciation to Scott and his company. And, I got a Personal Comfort mattress myself, and definitely one of the best purchases I ever made. So love their brand, and got to go for Chick-fil-A as well. They helped me out a bunch on the real race car, and, greatly appreciate them for all they do for me as well.
There's Kyle Tereska, second place finisher. Go celebrate with your team, and we'll turn it over to Tim, who's caught up with our third place driver, Joey Bailey.
We have not, because we don't see Joey Bailey here in the Discord. So unless he shows up here in the next couple of moments, it'll be your top 2. Kevin, final thoughts before we send this thing off. Great race, lots of strategy at the end. But Josh Williams comes home with a win. There's another name to the list that we already have. The list is getting big as we inch closer towards playoffs.
Like the real NASCAR season, we may end up with a dozen new winners this season. Last year, we saw Faulkingham and Gilliland steal all the prizes, but this year it's been distributed, and I like to see new winners every week, Tim. And let me play the Joey Bailey role. If only the yellow didn't come out, I think I'd have had a shot at winning this thing.
Yeah, he was definitely close. Played a role in Daytona and definitely played a role here. There are your top 10 on your screen. Congratulations to the Personal Comfort team and Josh Williams coming home with the victory here this evening. We're back at it next Monday night with the SIM500 Transervice Cup Series. Wednesday night is the Fatheads Cup Series here on Verdane, and the multi-league race on Thursday. So plenty of racing to accomplish this week as well. So if you want to get your fix, head over to Verdane.net. And that's going to do it for us here this evening. From the Talladega Super Speedway, so for Kevin England and Paul Strickland Jr., my name is Tim Terry. Until next time, keep the hammer down. We'll see you at the track.